A little over a year ago, we celebrated the 150th anniversary of First Presbyterian Church. It was 23 years ago that we also had a celebration, a groundbreaking. The members of our church had raised the money to build a new Christian fellowship center and a chapel, and on June 8, they had a groundbreaking ceremony to start the construction. The photos you're looking at were taken by Dave Wilkes. I know they're going by pretty fast, and there are a lot of familiar faces, 20 years younger. If you want to see them all again, look at the e-news next Wednesday. The Christian Fellowship Hall is where we have soul food and our 9 a.m. service, and it's the home to Presby Camp for the next 4 weeks. The chapel is where we have our Lent and Advent services. Underneath the chapel is the garden room, a room that's been used by many groups in our church community and the community of Santa Barbara. For the first scripture reading today, we're going into the chapel. Have you been in the chapel? It's a beautiful, intimate space for prayer and worship. There are so many beautiful and special parts of the chapel, the stained glass, the organ, and the piano. But I have to say, my favorite is the pews. Each pew has the name of a woman on it. Each of these women are special. Each one has an amazing story. Prophets, judges, tradespeople, wives, business owners, immigrants, widows, queens, sisters, mothers, friends of Jesus. In the story Cheryl's going to read from Exodus today, you actually don't hear Miriam's name, but we know she is Moses' sister, and, as you're going to hear in the story, she's the protector, the big sister looking out for her little brother.
Our first scripture reading for today is from Exodus chapter 1, starting at verse 8 through the end of chapter 2. Hear the word of the Lord. Then a new king who did not know about Joseph came to power in Egypt. "Look," he said to his people, "the Israelites have become much too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous, and if war breaks out, will join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country." So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor. And they built Pithom and Ramesses as store cities for Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites and worked them ruthlessly. They made their lives bitter with hard labor in brick and mortar and with all kinds of work in the fields. In all their hard labor, the Egyptians used them ruthlessly. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Sifra and Puah, "When you help the Hebrew women in childbirth and observe them on a delivery stool, if it is a boy, kill him, and if it is a girl, let her live." The midwives, however, feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, "Why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live?" And the midwives answered Pharaoh, "Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They're vigorous, and they give birth before the midwives arrive." So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people: "Every boy that is born you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live." Now a man of the house of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent a slave girl to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered, and the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
How old do you think Miriam was? 7, 8, 9, or 10, like these Presby campers? I can just imagine any of these sisters acting like Miriam and following the basket because they care what happens. The chapel is called the Chapel of the Good Shepherd and has Psalm 23 on the glass as you enter. I love that the chapel has the protective, caring Jesus so present as you enter. And I love looking out the windows at Santa Barbara. But even more, I love looking at the precious children who spend so much time around the Chapel of the Good Shepherd. And I really look forward to when we can all meet there again in person.